Sean and Tylee Bloomer.
Man, what's going on? We need some more chairs.
Standing room.
I
Right?
think they're coming. Huh? They're coming? Maybe? Crystal, thank you. You're amazing. We love Crystal. I love your laugh.
Yes. Right?
Your laugh is so cool.
She really did get to travel with us in our RV. Pregnant,
Pregnant.
bouncing around in the back.
She wasn't real happy.
The great thing is we had a bathroom on board, so that was useful for her.
That was good. All right, so hopefully we get some more chairs. So what's going on with this raffle? We didn't figure that out yet, or?
It looks like we got two lists going on.
Dude, you're young. You're supposed to have that
I
app.
know, it's not.
Last
John,
time we
I
were
like
here.
the old school, writing it down. That's
So
good.
if you get 2 lists, only write your name down once with one number.
Oh.
Don't. I'll fix it.
All right, you're in charge of that. I'm not going to worry about that. Okay, I know we're a few minutes late, so we apologize for that. We were hoping to get some more chairs in here, and so maybe they'll still show up. But hopefully we won't bore you. We'll keep you entertained, and you'll pick up a thing or two to take when you leave. So we are super grateful to be here. I just got back. I've been gone for, how long was I gone?
Too long.
Too long. I was gone like 10 or 11 days. I was in Dallas, and I was in Orlando, then I was over in Palm Beach, West Palm, east coast of Florida, just kind of doing our thing and helping people. And I'll just kind of share with you who we are, kind of how this whole thing started for Tyleen and I, and then we'll get into some things. And I'll tell you a little bit about us, and then I'm going to have Tyleen talk a little bit about the gut. I'll talk about the gut. We want to give you some new content tonight because it's been requested. So we'll keep some basics, and then we'll help you. And then what we want to do is keep a little time at the end. Oh, great, more chairs. We want to keep some time at the end to answer some questions for you. Okay? So I know there's a lot of recordings going on, so we can't tell you all the real good stuff, but we'll tell you what we can, and we'll kind of go from there. So Tyleen and I have been doing this for many, many years. Tyleen's been teaching doctors now for about 20 years. I met her roughly 20 years ago, and our story kind of goes like this. At that time, I was a head high school football coach here in the Valley. I had real bad arthritis in my hands. I was in my mid-30s. I'd already lost my mom to colon cancer, and I was trying to do some things that would be a little more preventative, right, for not only my health and kids and the kids I was coaching, and the parents were asking me questions, and then I get introduced to this lady, and she changed my life.
Best day of his life.
Best day of my life. She reminds me of that all the time. And the first night I met her, she told me she wanted to save the world, and I thought, all right, it's kind of cool, kind of corny, I don't know what she meant by that. I obviously know now.
He knows now.
I do know now.
You all know now.
You all know now. And roughly about, well, let me back up. I went to see her, and the first time I went to see her, it went kind of like this. I said, hey, listen, I know you've worked with some athletes, and you teach doctors, and whatever. You're not a doctor. I don't really care. But I went to specialists in Phoenix, Scottsdale, and I have arthritis in my hands, and I hate it. I go to a massage therapist down in Ahwatukee once a week now for almost 2 years. I have tremendous pain in my hands. I can't throw the ball with the guys anymore. I can't go golfing. I'm not a very good golfer, but I can't even hold a club. Okay, it was very frustrating because I was living a pretty healthy lifestyle, I thought. And I said, so I've got arthritis, and she says, no, you don't. And I said, I have arthritis, and she says, no, you don't. Don't tell me I'm living this. I have pain in my hands. And she said, listen.
There's no such thing as
There's
arthritis.
no such thing as arthritis. See, they have to create a disease so they can create a drug. And I'm like, I have arthritis. And she said, they have to create a disease so they can create a drug. And she said, let me tell you what you have. You have lost the ability, Sean. She goes, do you eat a lot of protein? And I'm like, yes, I do eat a lot of protein. I went to school at a football scholarship. I'm a pretty small guy. Everyone was lifting and eating protein to get big. I was just trying to get average. I was just like trying to catch up. That's a true story. And she said, look, your body has ran out of the ability. It has not enough enzymes to break your protein down. So when you eat protein, Sean, in your body, it stays as uric acid. Your body's looking for amino acids. It doesn't know if you took a protein shake, bar, a chicken breast. It's looking for an amino acid. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I kind of had that attitude. Who is she? Blah, blah, blah. And she started telling me words. Now, mind you, this was almost 20 years ago, and she told me words like enzymes, plant enzymes, probiotics, whole food supplements, things like that. And so I kind of went along with it. And about 4 days afterwards, I'm driving here in Phoenix, and I remember just driving. It wasn't, all of a sudden, it was kind of like that aha moment. My hands don't hurt. And I remember calling her. I remember picking up those big cell phones. You guys, I'm kind of dating myself, but you can do some curls with them. They were big. And I remember calling her. I said, listen, I don't know who you are. And I don't really care about that right now. You're not a doctor, but you teach doctors. I just have one question for you. I have no pain in my hands. And I just want to know, is the pain coming back? And she kind of scolded me and said, you need to come see me again, and you need to listen this time. See, she's East Coast, I'm West Coast, right? Any East Coasters in here? You like to kid about this. I just came back from the East Coast, you guys. So
He was around a bunch of me.
I found myself, oh my God.
He thought I was unique till he went there.
I had to compete with everyone. I was just talking. I'm talking louder and louder.
Yelling.
Everyone yells at everyone in the East Coast. It's crazy. I grew up in Arizona and San Diego, man. I'm West Coast, man. So you got to use your West Coast voice maybe sometimes because you're scaring people right now. So she said, listen. She showed me a little demonstration. How many have never seen us do this pudding demonstration? Has everyone seen this pudding? Some of you guys haven't. How many will raise their hand no matter what I say? Okay. All right. I'm going to show you this little pudding demonstration that Tylene did for me almost 20 years ago. And maybe she just knew that I was visual or something, and that's what it was going to take for me to understand what she was teaching me. And she's pretty lady, right? She's pretty. Don't you think she's pretty hot? So when I went to her, I didn't tell her how jacked up I was at first. I didn't tell her all my issues. I told her about my arthritis. And I'm the youngest of 8 kids. I didn't tell her I had acid reflux. Kind of funky to talk about, right? I didn't tell her I had indigestion. Where are you going? Come over here. Right? I didn't tell her I had plantar fasciitis. And I remember telling her, I said, I haven't had any acid reflux or indigestion all week. Is that from these enzyme things? And she said, yes, it's from these enzyme things. And at that point, I don't even know if I talked about plantar fasciitis at that moment. I was really embarrassing.
Next time you came
Next time.
with a whole
I
list.
kind of peeled the onion.
Let me tell you all the things that are wrong.
Anyone here have plantar fasciitis? Have you ever experienced that? Yeah, that's brutal. I had to have orthotics in my shoes. I would crawl to the bathroom in the morning when I'd wake up. Couldn't walk, couldn't stand. It was jacked up. So what I'm doing is I'm stirring this pudding. This is an example of something cooked, heated, or processed. This doesn't mean that you eat pudding. I won't judge you if you do eat pudding. But this just shows us this is thick and processed. So no matter how hard I keep stirring, it's just kind of there. It's dead. Okay, and what Tylene taught me back then was, she said, Sean, life gives life. Fresh and living food is alive. The enzymes in that food are present. So when God created fresh and living food, the enzymes are in that food. And so when you eat fresh and living food, you are not taxing your body, if that makes sense. And I was trying to track with her. I'm like, okay, I kind of get it. She goes, yeah, you just cook your food. You kill it. You kill the life, the enzymes that are in that food. And so it started to kind of make a little bit more sense to me. And she says, you don't eat all raw food, do you? I'm like, yeah, right. No, I don't eat all raw food. And she goes, well, here's the deal. We have, our pancreas is full of these digestive enzymes. But the challenge is we don't know how many we start with at birth. Mm-hmm. And it's really based on our parents and our grandparents. And then as we go through life, what we eat. And she taught me, she said, Sean, we weren't supposed to eat all this cooked and processed food. Our bodies weren't made for this. And now it's caught up to us. Now, mind you, this was almost 20 years ago. And I didn't pay a lot of attention to that. It started to make sense for me, but I really wasn't getting the big picture. Because what she was telling me is she was looking into that little crystal ball and letting me know what was happening all around us and what was to come. And now, I think you would agree, this is the sickest generation this country's ever had. Mm-hmm. So that arthritis I had in my mid-30s, we have 6, 7, and 8-year-olds now with with the same disease, the same, whatever you want to call it, illness. That's not normal. That would be, when I was growing up, that would be something that old people, and am I old? That old people got. And that's where we are now. See, you don't know what you start with. I have a daughter who's lactose intolerant. I'm not. That simply means she ran out of the enzyme lactase, so her body won't break down milk sugars. So if she eats dairy, she's uncomfortable, right? If I ate protein, I was having issues. I was bringing on more damage than anything. So as I've been running my mouth, I'll show you what this does. Put the spoon in there. Want me to pour it? What if I spill it?
Right?
I have the white sweater on. All right, I'll just do this one time, so hopefully you can see this. Okay. All that is a visual to help you understand that enzymes unlock the nutrients in our food. Okay, so just think of it, they just unlock it. Okay, does that make sense? When you eat that apple, that banana, the enzymes are there. You cook that banana, make banana cream pie, now it's dead. So now when you start eating, you're telling your brain you need help. Your brain, the pancreas, everything starts, where do you start digestion? Right here, right? Yep. You start chewing. And that's kind of what started this whole thing. And so from there, I'm going to let Tylene jump in, but I'll just kind of finish where we've been. So, I don't know, a few years after we met, I kept picking her brain. I'd just call her. What about this? And what about that? And can I eat this? And I'm coaching this kid, and he's got that. And blah, 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 blah. I was just hammering it. And I was researching. Remember, I'd already lost my mom to colon cancer. I'm like, man, this is jacked up. I don't know who she is, but this is right. And finally, she said, listen. She called me. She goes, you may not know everything I know, but you're freaking passionate like me. And you have a voice. Why don't we start an education company together? Because I had kept telling her, how come everyone doesn't know this? I was angry. How come everyone doesn't know this? And she kept saying, Sean, your body's nutrient deficient. It's not drug deficient. All these people are getting on meds, and they're going to be more and more. And I just remembered, man, she's right. And so I started researching, and then we started a company to educate. That company grew on its own. We didn't advertise. We didn't market. It just kind of kept going. And Tylene would make products for doctors and direct selling companies and retail companies. And then I started seeing all these athletes buying products from us online. Mind you, we're not advertising. I thought that was super cool because I like sports, and she's from Cape Cod, man. I don't know, you guys didn't have sports on Cape Cod?
Me too, but I didn't participate.
So she could care less.
Sailing or something.
Sailing.
I got something as a sport.
Sailing.
I like that.
Yeah, beach volleyball.
Beach volleyball. I like beach volleyball.
Hey, people were in field hockey. I remember people
Field
playing
hockey.
that.
Okay, that's cool. So all these athletes are buying product. I'm like, listen, these two guys, those Dallas Cowboys, Pittsburgh Steelers, Utah Jazz, Phoenix Suns. I'm seeing all this stuff. And she's like, whatever. Just like that.
Whatever.
I'm like, no, it's not whatever. These guys can get whatever they want for free. And then finally Steve Nash called. His business manager called, not Steve. Steve Nash wants to meet with you and Tylene.
I said, let me check my schedule.
Yeah. No, first she said,
I said, who's Steve Nash?
Who's Steve Nash?
That's
Like,
exactly
he's a
what I
two-time MVP of the Phoenix Suns of the NBA. He's right here in town. He's on every billboard. It's like, oh, okay, whatever. So we went and saw Steve, and it was very cool because Steve says, listen, I use products you guys make, and they're clean and they work. And that was super cool. If anything, it brought us some credibility. And then it kind of screwed us up, I think, because people thought we were like a sports nutrition business.
company.
And we ended up in thousands of stores and blah, 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 like Whole Foods and vitamin shops and all these different things. And we kind of had a cult following because we wanted to just do this. Because any type of bottle can't talk on a shelf.
Yeah.
It just can't talk. And there's so much poo out there in vitamins and supplements. Why don't we just start with food? Why don't we just eat better? Why don't we start with that? So you wouldn't want to be our business partner because we weren't trying to sell product. We were trying to educate people. And oh, by the way, some of these things are really, imperative that you put into your body as well. And that's just kind of been our journey. The last handful of years we've been pretty much, it's gone full circle. We've just been traveling and educating. Could be an autism organization, cancer, could be sports, could be assisted living, it could
Police
be
department.
I just did 2 police departments in Florida. It could be anything, military bases, whatever, first grade classroom. And the kids get it quicker than adults. I mean, they just get it quicker.
Well, adults have tasted more food over time and they don't want to give it up.
Yeah.
It's harder to change their habits.
That's true. That's true. And here we are, doing our thing. We've partnered with someone who's allowed us just a bigger platform, if you will. And I'll tell you a little bit about that as we wrap up. But you want to talk?
Wrap up. I'm just getting started.
No. At the end, when we wrap up. Oh, don't worry. I won't let her keep going because you guys will
Hold on.
Okay, so why don't we talk just a little more about
Go back to the part where you said I was
digestion.
right twice. I know all the women in the audience caught that. Like, she was right, she was right. I'm like, say it again. Yeah!
Everywhere I go, every city I go, it's like, is Tylene here? No, it's just me, sorry. I'll bring her next time. She only comes when there's 500, 1,000, 2,000 people. Kind of like that. I go to the 100 and below crowd.
It's a lot of work for women to get all ready to do a presentation. It's so much easier for me to stay home in my sweatpants.
So it's hashtag no filter with her, so whatever she says, do not hold me responsible.
Edit that part on the
Yes. But let's talk a little bit about digestion and continue that first, and then we'll...
Oh my gosh, there's so much with digestion. The biggest reason that taking enzymes works so amazing is that we have depleted our enzyme bank accounts. We're all starting with less because it is generational based on what your parents used up. So if your parents used, both of them, say, ate tons and tons of fats, then you actually are born with less fat enzymes. So you're at more of a risk, which is why you'll see kids be heavier than their parents at a younger age. So that's fats. So say take protein. Say somebody grew up on a farm and they're producing the cattle. So everyone in that family is eating lots of meat. They tend to run out of those enzymes for meat because they're eating so much. They pass that down to their kids. So their kids, so the first group's more at risk for any fat issues, diabetes, high cholesterol, heart disease, strokes, that sort of thing. The other group is more at risk because their parents ate tons and tons of meat. They're at more risk for all the protein issues like arthritis, gout, things like that. It can also still create a lot of blockages that can cause strokes and things like that as well, because uric acid, whether it's excess cholesterol in the blood and fats, or whether it's excess proteins, which looks like uric acid, it's still going to block your river of life. So the reason digestion is so important is that the ripple effect is it goes into the bloodstream. And so that's where like the disease cycle starts happening, is once you haven't processed something in the digestion aspect, it then seeps through the intestinal wall undigested, and based on what your family ate a lot of, you got less of that enzyme, which means that group of food actually isn't getting processed all the way down. So when you saw the pudding demo, which is a great visual, one, it's really fast. I mean, if we sat here and put the enzymes on a steak, we'd be here for a little bit. It would still work. It would start digesting it. It's how people tenderize their meat. Enzymes will start tenderizing the meat because it's starting to digest it, just so you can understand what it's doing. But the pudding's a nice, fast, quick demo, and people are very visual. So what it's doing with your food, and in our specific product, we have a full spectrum of enzymes. So that way the thinking's out of it for you. So if you eat a Thanksgiving meal, you're gonna have something to digest that specific thing. And enzymes are what they call substrate specific. So you can't take an enzyme that's for protein and hope it's gonna digest your fats. You need a specific enzyme to break that fat down to a fatty acid that the body can utilize. You need a specific enzyme for your proteins. You need actually a couple different ones for proteins. Proteins are a harder structure to break down, so you need a few different types. And we've already thought of that for you, so you don't sit there and open up a bottle, oh, I need some lipase because I'm getting ready to eat a donut. Now I need some of this because I'm getting ready to have a steak. We took that process out of it for you. So they're substrate specific, so whatever you're eating, and then you want to make sure you're processing it all the way. And what your red blood cells are looking for when your food is digested is the nutrients from that food. So all of us eat a protein, a carb, and a fat. Those are called macronutrients. Larger molecules, macro meaning larger, micro tiny. Micro things would be like vitamins, enzymes, minerals. Those are micro nutrients. Macronutrients are your proteins, carbs, and fats. But you need to process them or they're useless to the body. They actually become toxic to the body. If protein isn't digested all the way, it can sit there and rot in your intestinal tract and then create ammonia and all kinds of different toxins that go through your body and then create disease.
Can I just touch on that?
Yeah, I could just feel you looking at this. I knew. Because I'll keep going.
Oh, I know you will. Okay. Well, that makes me think of my mom that passed of colon cancer. And, you know, I was the youngest of 8 kids, and I remember my mom would be in the bathroom for hours. I don't know if she was hiding from the 8 kids.
Wow.
Part of it, I'm sure.
Part of it. She couldn't go to the bathroom. She was constipated. And she ate plenty of meat. And I just, you know, I know her body couldn't break that down. And at some point, when you're eating different things for breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, dessert, over and over and over, you guys, if you don't break it down, not only are you not going to get the nutrients from that food you're eating, it's going to go somewhere. It's going to do something. It's going to rear its head, I promise you, as something not so good. It is absolutely imperative that you break your food down to the smallest molecule that your body can utilize and get everything good from that and get rid of what the body's not going to use. So I just want to drive that home so you can kind of put that together.
Yeah, there's 3 enzymes.
Get out.
We'll change it up.
There's water.
This is my better side, though. Way over there. You want to know why this is my better side? I'll give you guys all this little advice.
Love this.
There's a statistic with truck drivers. So I never really thought about the sun here in Arizona coming through the window of your car, but I'm always a passenger. So this side of my face started drooping down. And it's crazy, and I have a really, really good plastic surgeon friend out in Beverly Hills, and he uses our supplements, and he's never done any work on me. He always says, you don't need anything I do. I'm like, oh, I love you, you're so sweet. But he's the one that explained that to me. It's kind of interesting that you wouldn't think that you'd think the window would kind of shadow you and help you, but it starts creating free radical damage and damaging the cells, and so one side of my face looks older from being a passenger all the time. But he won't let me drive.
Oh, let's go over here then.
No,
I'm jacked up and on this side.
so he's
I'm going to stand like
we
this.
complete each other.
You go this way.
So anyway, I ended up buying screens for my windows since he won't let me drive.
Not let her drive.
I get distracted, you know?
Yeah, we were talking about enzymes.
Yeah, I
Now we're talking about the
I
window.
think there is no such thing just like no arthritis. I don't believe there's ADHD either. I think some people that are like me just like little things and maybe they'll get around to finishing them. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. We're really good at multitasking. We do several things. Nothing wrong
Little
with
things like, did you want to shut the refrigerator door? Or
I might be going to get something out
I
of
might
that.
be going back 5 minutes ago.
I got a lot in my head.
Yes, keep going.
I was thinking of what I was teaching you.
Don't let me stop you.
I already forgot where I was going with that. So there's 3 types of enzymes. There's digestive enzymes. So you start creating this digestive juices. So the digestive enzymes are made in your pancreas, but also you're going to secrete digestive enzymes like amylase in your mouth, which is why we need to chew better. No one chews good enough anymore. I mean, so many, you can read different things, but they'll say at least chew it 30, 40, 50, 70 times. You'll hear even more. No one does that. People do whole chunks like down their throat. I mean, and he was the youngest of 8. That was one of his biggest issues, why he had acid reflux. And it's because he was the youngest of 8 and he wanted to make sure he got some food, so he gobbled it up quick.
Took what I could get.
He still does. When we try to share something, I turn around and the whole piece of salmon's gone. Because he's still a protein monster. That's what I used to call him. I'm like, you don't need that much protein. You don't need any protein. You can get it all from plants. I know, and then I'll look back and there's just salad left for me. I'm like, that's not sharing. So he eats really fast. So youngest of 8, and a lot of people do that. They'll stand, they'll eat. They definitely don't have a mindful meal, but that creates tremendous acid reflux because you're not going to digest it all the way. And that really starts in the mouth. So when people say, oh, well, even raw food, because I'll tell people, eat more raw food. You'll spend less money, you won't have to buy as many enzymes, eat more raw food. And a lot of people go, well, raw food comes back up. I have some issues with raw food. And so if you ever hear any of your clients saying that to you, it's because they're not chewing it well enough. Where the enzymes live in the food, the same enzymes that we use and put into a capsule for you, they live inside your food. So the best way to picture it is like the little teardrops that you see when you open up an orange, the little teardrops, and then the little teardrop cells that are in like a cucumber, you can visually see that. Well, when you chew and you break open where those little teardrops, the enzymes can come out and start breaking down that food for you, which basically takes all the pressure off of your own body to create digestive enzymes. So what I just explained to you are plant enzymes. That's what's in our kingdom of plants. Also animals. So animals have enzymes too. So if a dog came around and ate a cat, that cat's got enough enzymes for the dog to digest it. And if the cat went and ate a rat, that rat's got enough enzymes in it for the animal to digest it. They don't need to expend their enzyme potential, their enzyme battery, to digest that food because it's already fresh and living. It already has an enzyme that it's giving to the body. So what we did though is we started cooking everything, really cooking it. I mean, we can cook things so good now, we can can them and everything and it's dead. It's crazy. So all the packaged foods, they're dead. So there's dead food, like the piece of salmon, steamed broccoli, brown rice, that's all dead, but good for you. And then there's processed food, like Spam and Pop-Tarts and Doritos, and they're really processed. So there's cooked food and there's processed food. There's cooked and processed. That's extremely hard on the body, and you're asking a lot of your digestive enzymes. You're not giving anything to the body. And then there's another whole component, which is how I befriended my friend in Beverly Hills, is because there's a massive anti-aging component. There's a healing component to enzymes and a massive anti-aging. So the anti-aging component comes in when you can conserve your own enzymes. So here, I'll give you for instance, if you have no enzymes that digest dairy and you go and have a milkshake, you're not going to die from drinking the milkshake. So you're like, well, how did I get rid of it? Because the body figured it out, but not with its normal way it would figure it out. It's using metabolic enzymes that do everything. Healing, it's what's allowing you to even listen to me right now and process what the heck I'm saying. Metabolic enzymes do everything. They make you blink, and when they're gone, you're dead. Okay, so when your metabolic enzymes, your life force of enzymes is gone, you're not here anymore. So the more you can conserve them, the longer you'll live. So you're wasting them frivolously to digest that Pop-Tart or whatever you're grabbing, and you're forcing the body to have to figure something out that it shouldn't have to figure out. And so that's where the anti-aging component comes in. And so when I used to work with all my doctors, that's what they loved. They loved the anti-aging component of it. But a lot of times in these meetings, I don't have enough time to talk about metabolic enzymes, plant enzymes, digestive enzymes. I'm just like, here, take this so you don't die. I don't have a lot of time to explain why. I'm just like, I look trustworthy, right? So just trust me because I don't have enough time to explain it. But sometimes that doesn't work. We really do need to understand it, but that's what it is. And that's why when I started studying this stuff, I got so passionate about it because enzymes are the one thing that science couldn't even kind of put their finger on, because it has enzymes have a life force to them, but then when they've given all of that they can give to you, they just go back to being a protein, and then the body utilizes them and just uses them up. So they give as much as they can of their enzyme and their energy potential to you to help you, and then when they're done, they just turn back into a protein.
Wow.
And so they're very magical. And then they do these great things. And something so easy as if you do want a piece of pizza or something that's been cooked, you take a plant enzyme, so it's just like you would in nature. It's not sucked out of a cow, pig, or sheep at the slaughterhouse. Those are digestive enzymes that they took from an animal at the slaughterhouse. They work, so it's not that they don't work. They will digest your food. They don't work in a broad pH range. And me personally, I like to follow nature. I don't think anybody in this room wakes up and goes, oh, I can't wait to have the inside of the cow's pancreas juices. You know, so but naturally we wake up and we want fruits and vegetables and we want fresh living things. That's where we should get our enzymes from. And it doesn't mimic our own. The other thing with animal enzymes is they mimic our own really closely. And I rather just not have my pancreas not work, because what if I forget my enzymes? I don't want to die from eating my cooked food. Your pancreas will still kick in and work, but you're not conserving your enzymes. So now you understand why it's so important. Don't forget your enzymes with your cooked food, because the goal is longevity. And we can live a long time in America, because you can live a long time with different machines they can hook you up to. So it's not even necessarily living to 100. It's living to 100 and being able to run around. It's the quality of life. It's being able to have all your wits about you. It's to be able to walk up the stairs, play with your grandkids, or be like my mom who's 76 and she's out jet skiing and jeeping. She loves jeeping. And she's playing volleyball and pickleball. And I literally have to make an appointment with her because she's so busy. And that's what it's about. That's why you want to do this. So there's a huge component to just taking a silly little enzyme with your cooked food that's going to expand your life. So the research is up to 30 years. What? Yeah. So it's kind of crazy. That's what the research is. And of course they research on mice, and then they do the math and equate it to, if humans do this, this is how long they'll live. So it's up to a 30-year extension on your lifespan by incorporating enzymes into your diet or eating more fresh and living food. Because you got to remember, enzymes can only digest what you're giving it. So if you eat donuts every day, you're just digesting donuts. So if there's hardly any nutrients in there, that's what your red blood cells still get. So everyone's going to have different results because everyone eats different.
You get some water.
Wow.
Oh, I can keep going,
I know you
man.
can.
Feeling it.
Oh no! You're in trouble if you're feeling it. Trust me. Okay.
And we locked the doors. So you guys are stuck. You're stuck in your own way.
No. These East Coast people. Okay. I want to back up. This research on these enzymes that Tylene is referencing, it's been there since the 1930s. The 1930s. It just kind of got pushed aside in the corners, like other things that somehow governing bodies of whatever seem to push to the side. Okay? So I don't want you to think Tylene's making this stuff up.
They were thinking I was super smart. Now you're right.
Okay.
Still are.
I'm just really good at reading the research.
Yeah, and you know, if I'm sitting in the audience and I remember hearing for the first time and watching, and maybe the second and third and 10th time, I'm like, well, how come my grandparents didn't need these enzymes? And they lived in their 90s. So why do I need them? And she started telling me, well, the food's different. The soil's different. Even if you're trying to eat good, it's tough to get the nutrients from the food you're eating. I said, all right. And so it started to make more and more sense. And so the chemicals in the food, oh my gosh. And so we're really in a weird place now. And one of the biggest reasons we do what we do is because, now we got 6 kids. You know, we're a blended family, 6 kids. We have 7 grandkids. Did you know we're the first generation in this country it's anticipated that we will outlive our children? I'll be 54 in a couple months, Ty's pushing 50.
One more year.
50 in a year. I can't
Wait. No,
For
I'm
that-
going to stay 49 forever.
No. But does that make any sense? How can that be acceptable? Anticipated to outlive our children? Do you guys, do you hear that?
Yeah.
Does that resonate with you at all? I mean, do you really think this whole country should be medicated? Do you think we have brain issues going on right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Anxiety, depression, people shooting up schools. I was speaking in Florida last week. I was a baseball team. I was a big traveling club, baseball, whatever they were, all the coaches, all the parents. And as I'm going there, cop cars are flying everywhere for that shooting in Orlando. Or not Orlando, East Coast. You guys, this is happening nonstop. Why is that? Why is that? We live in a different time, and if we don't wake up and do something differently, things are going to keep progressing down that road. That is not a good thing. This isn't gloom and doom, by the way. As you can see, we're not gloomy and doomy.
No.
But we want to wake you up. We need your voice to wake up. We want to wake you up, and we want you to wake others up. Does that make sense? Because if we don't, autism. I just was with autism, some folks in Florida. Do you remember when autism even kind of came to be? I mean, growing up, I never even heard of autism. And now suddenly it's everywhere. It's 1 out of 50 some kids, or 1 out of 60 some kids are born somewhere on the autism spectrum. Why is that? Does that just happen? Did you know they're saying in about a decade from now, if we don't do something different, 1 out of 2, every other child born in the United States will be born somewhere on the autism spectrum. Did you know that? We can't continue to be sheep. We're sheep. We just keep going. Well, Mickey D's, that must be cool. Everyone else is eating it. When I was growing up, Mickey D's was kind of like food. It was kind of like food. There was something there. It ain't there anymore.
And it was a treat, though.
It was a treat.
My mom would have to drive me like 30 minutes to go get something.
You live on Cape Cod, everything was there.
That's true. That's true.
But microwaves, they're safe. We're the microwave generation.
Because we're impatient.
Nuking our food and making it turn rubbery has to be okay for us. I'm sure that's the way God intended it. You guys, are we that silly? Holding these devices up to our head all the time. That's got to be marvelous for us. Spectacular. You guys, you've got to make change. We have to make change, and we have to spread this message. I'll be 54, and I feel 100%. How many people in here feel 100%? I mean, look me in the eye. You can jump, you can run, you can go up the stairs, you can do whatever you want, you can play with the grandkids, you can go do whatever you want to do. Instead of, man, I can't even move anymore. It doesn't need to be that way. We just think it's supposed to be that way because everyone's acting like that. Tylene's grandmother just turned 101 in December. 15 years ago, she started stuffing her with enzymes like nobody's business. Yeah. Her hands looked like bird claws. I'm not exaggerating. They were funky. They were like this. Today, they are like this, with one pinky slightly bent. She is 101, and she does not eat perfect, but she does smash enzymes nonstop. So you can take whatever we're saying to the bank, or you can say we're out there wacky. It doesn't matter to us. That's okay. We are a little bit wacky. But we've seen what's happened to people thousands and thousands and thousands of times. We can't tell you, and we got videos going, we can't even say what we want to say. You guys are going to go home tonight, you're going to turn this TV on, and you're going to see craziness. If you took medication for type 2 diabetes and you lost a limb, what? What? You might be entitled to a settlement. Wait a minute, did I take that? If you took this for your migraine headaches and your arm fell off, you might be entitled. I'm not exaggerating. What? Turn the TV on.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But we have all these professional athletes, the best of the best, celebrities and all these people. Doctors you guys know who this little girl here has taught about enzymes. I mean, I'm talking about people you guys all know who she taught. And we can't get on TV. Steve Nash would have said, Tim Duncan, San Antonio Spurs, marvelous man, would say anything we would ask him to because we helped him and his family back then. I remember that. These people, you guys, we're not allowed to. We can't shout information like this from the rooftops. It's not legal for us to do that. We love our country. But do you see why we're doing what we're doing? We don't care if there's just 4 of you here. We're going to be here. Because one person at a time, this information needs to be shared. You can take it and do whatever you want with it. Obviously, eating better than not so good is a wise choice, but we're all not perfect. I'm not perfect by any means. I do not eat perfectly. I try to eat 80% fresh and living food, and I do not always accomplish that.
Especially when he travels.
She ain't with me. I'm kind of, no, I mean, it just, we can't. We still want to enjoy our food sometimes, right? But I say these things because I just want you to listen. It means so much to us that you hear us. That's what this is all about. And she could go on, and I started talking about the brain and brain issues. Let me just touch on that. Tylene mentioned your red blood cells, and your blood being your river of life is really what it is. And when that red blood cell travels from your big toe to your brain, as Tylene taught me years ago, in 60 seconds, it better have some nutrients to deliver to your brain. And what's happening is a couple of things, in my opinion, a few things. Number one, we don't get enough good vitamin B from the food we eat in the first place, right? We certainly don't break it down completely to utilize what's available to us. We don't have enough friendly bacteria, probiotics, in our gut, which can help create
B vitamins.
B vitamins. Did you know 70% of your immune system lives in your gut? There's a little maintenance supply of stabilized probiotics in there with that enzyme, by the way. Did you know they call the gut the other brain? Everything in your body starts with digestion, period. It basically takes precedent over everything that you consume. Your body now has to figure it out. If it's fresh and living, it's all good. Otherwise, it has got to figure out what to do. And you're trying to get nutrients, vitamins, minerals out of that food you just ate. And that's what these enzymes are doing for you. Does that make sense? Just like Tylene said, it's not about selling a bunch of product. Eat more fresh food. Start there. We don't eat enough fresh food. That's what got us in this place, in this place in the first place. Because we're just the food we eat. Our bodies weren't meant for this. And so you go back to the brain, and you're like, man, they're not getting the nutrients they need. They live in a different time. I mean, you guys, it's a different time. So we have to help ourselves any way that we can. Do you want to just kind of jump from the gut? Do you want to go into...
How are we doing on time?
We're out of time.
Do
We've been out.
questions? What do you do?
We get Crystal's in
Chatting?
charge. What time is it? We started late. Anyone have the time? We don't want to keep you guys.
Yeah, we
Okay, go ahead.
we have 3 different products right now.
No, we don't tell them.
We have 3 products with them. The name of the company is Trinont.
We've partnered with Trinont because they gave us this education platform that we've been dreaming of. And when we met the owners over a year ago, we found out they were doing financial education, and we knew we needed that, and most people we knew needed that. And then a few months back, we met with the owners. They said, the CEO, the founder of the company said, I really wanted to start a health education type company. But I was in finance. We knew finance. That's where we should start. That was on our wheelhouse. He goes, I come from a family of 7 MDs. He goes, I want to open some eyes. He's a visionary. I love that man. There's 3 owners of the company. I love the integrity of who they are as human beings. That's all I want. I've been around the block. And I innately know when I listen if that human being is someone I want to be tight with and follow and help accomplish something. And they came to us a few months ago and they said, listen, we want to do health education. And we would like to talk to you about it. And we were, wow, we're very grateful for that, but let's talk about it because we get these kind of offers often. So let us ask you some questions. Will you keep our prices the same and lower them for your people that will spread the message? And they said, yes. We said, okay, that's big. Will you continue to educate and keep things authentic and transparent and genuine? And they said, yes. And then the most important question was, do I have to wear a suit? I'm straight up. I said, listen, do we got to wear suits or can we be Sean and Ty? Because we would rather just be who we are. And he says, no, we got plenty of suits around here. Don't worry about that. You guys just do your thing. And that's really kind of what led us on this journey. And none of this was supposed to launch until the first week in March in Las Vegas, where they do a national kickoff, where they bring all their folks in. There's 30-some thousand of these folks that Tylene has dreamed of as in her enzyme army. Because she just wants people to know this information and spread this knowledge. And so we've started out with 3 things for this company. The first is what you saw break the pudding down, which is a full spectrum plant enzyme and some stabilized probiotics. When I say stabilized, meaning you don't have to refrigerate them. Okay? They're kind of sleeping until you consume them. And then we did a multivitamin mineral product from food, you guys. From food and plants. Unfortunately, 9 out of 10 vitamins and supplements that are typically purchased in the United States still use synthetic ingredients. I wouldn't put that in my body. I wouldn't put that in my pet's body. And by the way, pets, we've been helping pets for many, many years. Your pets will love all of what we're talking about right here with these enzymes, etc. And they have all the same illnesses we do now. Why do they? Make sure you got some pet insurance.
That's true.
They're crazy. Why do they have what we have? Because they're eating our same cooked and processed food. You don't see no lion out in the jungle. Oh man, I'm on the rocks. But you see our dogs, like Tylene says, let's get them a little ladder so they can get up on the bed. They're jacked up. They got the same stuff we got. Because we jacked them up. We love them, but we jacked them up.
Yeah, they weren't about to cook the food themselves.
No. No, not that cat you talked about, the dog.
We do it to them.
So we do it to the kids. And that's what this is all about. And so, you know, we talk about ascorbic acid as an example for you. Turn your bottle around at home. If you have a vitamin C is pretty popular, right? Whether it's a vitamin C product or a multivitamin that has vitamin C. Just look at that. If it says vitamin C has ascorbic acid, that would be an example of synthetic. Typically that ascorbic acid would be hydrochloric acid in genetically modified corn syrup. And as Tylene likes to say, none of us here are hydrochloric acid and genetically modified corn syrup deficient. You really shouldn't be taking that. Makes sense. How about getting your vitamin C from, I don't know, acerola cherries or some fruit or something? Oranges, doesn't that make more sense? So you can't mimic God, but they think they can because it's pennies on the dollar.
You can patent it.
And you can patent chemicals, but you can't patent nature. You're right. And we cast our vote every time we keep buying this nonsense. Just keep poisoning us. We'll buy it. We don't care. And that's what's going on. You guys, your personal care products, your household products, the companies that I grew up on. Many of you know the names. I don't need to say their names. They're in Europe. They're in Canada. They're in Japan. The same flipping company. With the same bottle, with the same label, until you turn it around and you see completely different ingredients. You know why? Because they are banned. They are illegal. They go to prison if they put those ingredients in that product and put it and give it to a human being. And those same companies, which are headquartered in the United States, come home, put the poisonous, toxic chemicals in the products and stick them on the shelf, and we all run in there, woohoo, and we buy them. Let's poison ourselves, and we wash our hands and wash our hair. You guys, it's ridiculous. It's jacked up until you wake up. You can be jacked up, or you can wake up. I'll take wake up. That's why we're doing what we're doing. And that's why we don't want to get too deep on you, but it's so important to us that you guys understand this information. We're not the only ones out there teaching. And we just kind of fly under the radar, and that's what we're doing.
We're some of the few that are still alive that are teaching.
Yeah. That's why I don't like these recorders.
Yeah.
It's just not, and there's some real outspoken people. We're not really outspoken.
No.
Are we?
That's why you don't let me talk.
Yeah.
I'm outspoken.
We got to sneak to the car and stuff. There's people out there that do what we do, guys, and it's not a good situation. They're way more outspoken on cancer, on autism, on vaccines, and types of things that we don't want to go into that. You know, we're just trying to give you some basic information that you can apply to your life, your family, your friends, people you love and care about, and complete strangers. Because until you stop buying all that nonsense, they're going to keep giving it to us. So you cast your vote. Tylene likes to say you cast your vote every time you buy that poison. It's just not right. And so those enzymes, by the way, are safe basically for everyone. Pregnant women, right? We have taught some of you that when you go from breast milk to formula, you can simply open that capsule up, put it in the bottle, start with half, and see if baby doesn't just stop
And
crying.
that capsule's just a veggie capsule.
Little veggie capsule dissolves quickly. The multi, you want to talk about the multi at all?
I mean, so we have another product that's a multivitamin, which everybody just can replace theirs with. Hopefully, everyone understands why they need them so bad because our soil's so depleted. But even just think of like one ingredient, like magnesium, does over 300 different things. So if you're deficient in magnesium, you're gonna have 300 things that are not going correctly. So you definitely you need a multi and you want it in the best form. And so that we have the multi for you to switch out for you and your people. And then the energy product, it's really a brain product, but everyone kind of likes it for energy, but it's also, when we first started creating that product and utilizing it, to us it was like a dance product because it just makes you happy. So we just called it our happy pill.
We haven't talked about this for a long time, for years.
Just made you happy.
It was not a dance product. She had me
I had him
taking
test
way
it.
too many. I was the guinea pig. Yes, I was dancing.
If you take 6 capsules, you will dance.
I was on my phone in the office, standing up, just talking and going.
Yeah.
I'm like, it wasn't a dance product. She started saying that after I was dancing all the time.
Because it was
She
great.
gave me-
Well, you couldn't sit down. But what's cool that's in there is, so you'll have more natural plants that will give you that type of energy, but without a crash and without the jitters, without heart palpitations, the things you're going to get with synthetic caffeines that are out there. So synthetic caffeines are made out of urea, and there's only about 60 known plants that have true naturally occurring caffeines that doesn't give you that crash. So that's really, really important. So you really want to help your friends and family get off of the Red Bulls and all the different fake caffeines out there. And so that's really, really important because your adrenal glands are so precious to you. If your adrenals are off, your thyroid will be off. Like they all work hand in hand. So your endocrine system is so important, which is why we try to conserve the pancreas. And there's so many endocrine disruptors out there right now that it's imperative that we support our endocrine system.
You guys know what your endocrine system is?
Yeah, it does everything. Hormones, I heard someone say. Pancreas, thyroid, all of those fun
Sexual
things.
health.
Sexual health. Yes.
Speaking of sexual
And everybody wants that to function correctly.
That goes back to that river of life, blood flow.
And keeping you in a good mood.
Dancing.
A lot of people
Yeah.
find that. I'm just saying.
Oh, but blood flow is a good point because I was talking
Yeah.
to someone earlier. The enzymes are extremely therapeutic, and so to specifically help with blood flow, so when you take them with your food, they're breaking down that food that you're feeding them right then. That's it. So if you take them on an empty stomach, there's specific ones in there that are called systemic enzymes that they've tested and they know goes through the bloodstream looking for stuff. Specifically, lipase is a systemic enzyme. So lipase will go through your bloodstream looking for undigested fats. So if people have blockages and things with fats blocking their river of life, the enzymes will bump into those things and say, hey, the job wasn't completed. They'll unlock those nutrients, turn whatever that debris is, the fatty debris in the bloodstream, and change it to the form that the body can actually utilize. So now it's not an obstruction anymore. Same thing with the proteolytic enzymes. So the protein splitting enzymes, proteolytic enzymes, will go through the bloodstream when you take it on an empty stomach, looking for like what Sean had, which was excess uric acid buildup. So if someone specifically has excess uric acid buildup, whether it be in their feet, their hands, their hips, uric acid tends to like to go to old injuries. So if, when I used to work with all the athletes, they'd have a lot of old injuries, maybe in their hips, their knees. And so when they started taking the product, they're like, well, how come my knees feel so much better? How come this feels so much better? And really it was because it was going in there and completing the job because it wasn't done. So when you're taking enzymes with your food, it's going to break down the food you're eating. But if you've been on this planet a long time and you have a lot of debris in the bloodstream, you really want to take it on an empty stomach so it can get in there and start working therapeutically. And so an empty stomach is 1 hour after you've eaten or 30 minutes prior to eating. So, but if you have food anytime within that time frame, the enzymes will only go and process that substrate. So as soon as you take it on an empty stomach, it looks for something to do. And that's when it goes in and works its magic on excess debris, which is old food that never got digested to begin with, and cleans that up for you. So once the river has all the logs cleaned up, the river can flow, and that creates blood flow. So, and then little tiny areas that the blood needs to flow, like in your eyes. So if people have really poor eye health, there was a testimonial the other day on Facebook, the guy shared with me also that he was freaking out that his eyesight, I mean, he was literally going to the doctors and had tests and proof and everything. He still has like floaters and stuff that's kind of going through his eyes, but the rest of all of his eye issues, he was freaking out because he hasn't been on the product that long. And so, but that's all blood flow. It's all blood flow to be able to fit through the tiny, tiny little capillaries. Your blood, your red blood cell already has to fold up. So even just the little cell itself, in some of the areas are so tiny, the blood cell itself has to fold up and then go through that area. So if there's any blockages, there's just no way. And so if somebody's got a blockage, it could mean the blood's trying to get somewhere. That could be a stroke if the blood doesn't get there. If it's going down the leg, maybe it turns into a varicose vein and the blood starts pooling because there's a blockage there. Maybe there's a blockage, which is why the body's super smart and pushes excess uric acid away from the heart. So that's why it goes to people's fingers and toes. It needs to be there away from the heart so you don't die of a heart attack from that blockage of excess uric acid. So it's so important, and you can kind of follow how different diseases can be created just from eating whatever it was you were eating, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, different drinks. I mean, everything we drink now is completely dead and pasteurized. So your orange juice, your milk, whatever it is completely dead. So even just a drink is taxing your body.
So just to kind of wrap up, just so you know, when you take it, the best time if you're taking it with your food is right before you eat that enzyme. And what tends to happen for people is, most people, not all, you could become more regular. Okay, so poop, we talk a lot of poop. Poop's a good thing. Okay, if you ain't pooping, we got issues. You gotta keep pooping. Some people, however, may not start pooping because they start absorbing more nutrients. And all of a sudden your body's getting more nutrients out of their food.
So then there's less to poop out.
There's less to poop out.
Because you're finally actually getting some of the nutrients.
Okay, so stomachs tend to flatten out because you're processing what you're consuming, which is always kind of a neat thing. And I think that's super important that people kind of understand that. But I want to say this: some people will lose weight, while other people will put on muscle. I mean, you know, in fact, Craig just reached out to me. So I'll give you an example. A guy here from the Valley went off to University of Michigan to play football, the defensive end, and he couldn't get bigger. He was like 6'5", he couldn't put on any muscle, any weight. He came to us, and they had him on some ridiculous amount of calories. I mean, crazy. I don't.
Like thousands.
I mean,
like 4,000 or 5,000 a day.
No, it was more. It was either 50. It was either 5,500.
I was like, I don't eat that in a week.
It may have been 6,500. It was ridiculous. And we said, okay, first thing we're doing is we're going to lower your calories by about 1,500 a day. But you're going to absorb more of these foods. We saw what they were telling him to eat and feeding him. So you're going to get more amino acids out of this protein that you're eating. You keep training, listen to your trainers, do whatever you want to do, eat what they're telling you. We won't step on their toes, but you're going to do 1,500 calories less a day. And he kind of freaked out, and I said, will you give us a week? He says, I'll give you a week. So his first week, he put on 4.5 pounds of lean muscle. And then check this out.
He just felt
His
so much better.
Talk about his allergies.
He was always sick though. Like
He was
in
calling
general.
us about allergies.
Really sick and like almost flu-like symptoms. But he also
Asthma,
he had
allergies.
asthma.
It was like.
And he's like, is this stuff I'm taking supposed to fix that? And so you'll get that a lot. You know, is this supposed to fix this? And it does so many different things for different people. And the bottom line is an enzyme is an enzyme is an enzyme. It's always going to do what you saw it do to the pudding. The question is, what is your body going to do? how is your body going to utilize it? How long have you not been going to the bathroom? How long have you had this disease, been in this disease state? So everybody's going to be different, but I know one thing, it always works. So the thing is patience. There's some people in here that I'm like, just be patient. Some people detox so quick the minute they take it, they're just like, whoa, I can't handle this, and off of one capsule, which means they're really toxic. So I'm just like, oh yeah, that's crazy, you're already detoxing. So they may have to back off, and with those people I tell them, take one with their largest meal. That's it. Start with that, do it for 3 days, then add another capsule. Especially if they're in a disease state, they can work their way up to taking 2 with each meal and 2 at bedtime, and they could even take it in between, because they're just so healing. But sometimes people, you got to work slowly with them if they're very toxic.
So I kind of want to just cut it time-wise, just because we want to be very respectful of your time, and we're grateful that you were here and that you listened. I don't know, if Crystal, if you want to take
questions.
maybe just a few
We have a
questions, or
limit.
no questions, that's okay too, whatever you want, whatever you think makes the most sense. Or
It's really up to the people. Do you guys want to hear 2 questions or?
Yeah.
You guys wanna do it? Okay, we'll take 2.
couple quick ones.
I'm here for